yoga class. My name is Jenny, and this is a restore practice. So it's going to be super chill pace, really slowed down, and really taking some time to turn inward. So to get set up, we're going to use props in this class. Really, I think you should use props in every class because they're good. They're there for support. We could always use, a little extra support in our lives. So props are a good thing. A few different props that you can grab. Blocks of some sort. If you don't have, yoga specific blocks, no problem. Just grab a couple hardcover books about the same size. My collection of Edgar Allan Poe works perfectly. It's the right size for my blocks. You can also grab blankets are really nice. You can put a blanket over the top of your mat for a little extra cushion, especially if you're practicing on a hard surface. I also suggest having some smaller, or like medium-sized blankets. This is good sometimes to sit on to bring a little lift in the booty, just to add a little bit of, if you just need to fill a little bit of space. You can also have larger blankets. Cushions of some sort, bolsters are going to work the best. Again, this is a yoga-specific prop, yoga and meditation. So if you have any bolsters or a meditation cushion, but again, don't worry if you don't have any of the fancy yoga props. Grab a bunch of pillows. You could use couch cushions. You could also use a thicker blanket rolled up that kind of takes on the same shape and size as a bolster. So take a moment to gather all of your props. And while you do that, I'll introduce kind of the theme of what we're working with today. So I took a webinar series this weekend about embodied love and relationships. And there are a lot of really, really good topics that I tuned into that will inspire other classes, but the one that really stuck with me was like, okay, this is something that I want to teach. It's something that goes right along with mindfulness, and this is the idea. I want to make sure that, because there's a lot of words that sound like it, so I want to make sure that I say the right word. And there we go. So we're going to be talking about introspection. So how this came up was the leader, the instructor of this particular course came from an occupational therapist background. And she says that within the occupational world, they work with 8 different senses. So not just the 5 visceral that we're used to, there are 5, taste, sight, touch, smell, all that good stuff. But then there's 3 others. One, she just called balance. There was another, technical term for it that started with a V. But balance, kind of, your balance within your body and kind of the balance within space around you. Another one is proprioception, so how you move through space, how the elbows, how the joints, how the muscles, how the ligaments all move. And then the last one that what we're going to focus on today is introspection. So these are messages from our bodies, the messages that our body sends us, and how we interact with this system. These messages every single day are when our body tells us we're hungry, we're thirsty, we're tired, we're hungry, or we need to use the restroom, that sort of stuff. So some of those messages are a little more clear, and even then, sometimes we're not always good at listening to that. It's like, why do I feel so weak? Why am I so upset? Why am I have such a short fuse? Like, oh, because I need to eat something, or oh, I have a headache. Yeah, maybe drink some water. And so sometimes we're not always as in tune to those messages from our bodies, and even on more than just our physical needs. Our body is continuing to communicate to us. Our body is our history. Our body keeps track. Our bodies are the books of ourselves. So our body remembers everything that happens, the good and the bad. Our body remembers trauma. Our body wants to function at 100% and will tell us when something isn't right. But we don't often tune in enough to have that kind of positive relationship with our body, a respectful relationship with our body for a myriad of reasons, most of them externally, a lot of them from societal pressures and other things that this westernized world kind of, imprint in our brains from young ages. And so through mindfulness, we can start to tune in a little more into these messages. And they come from a lot of different areas, but today we'll focus on, we've got the brain, we've got our second brain in the belly. We also have another mind or brain in the heart. So we'll be checking in with all three of these places. At the end, we'll do a meditation where we really, kind of dive in. But really what I want to do, so I'll read you the definition of introspection. It's our internal body's sensory system that allows us to notice and identify physical and emotional states and to respond appropriately. So that's the key, is to respond appropriately. That's the goal. That's, what we want to accomplish when we tune into our bodies, into our emotional states and our physical state. So let's move through practice today with this idea and just see if we can start to, maybe this is the first time you're making that connection to your body. Maybe this is something that you've already worked with, maybe just not knowing that that's the name for it. So just keep an open mind, an open heart, open belly while we're at it, and just see what happens, and just, as always, continue to check in. So we are going to start our practice. I'm going to go ahead and move my props off to the side. Move any props that you may be sitting on. And we're going to come down to a lying position with the knees bent, feet planted on the floor. So in this active rest. So you can walk the feet a little bit wider than hip distance, and maybe even let the knees just drop in on themselves so that you get that support there. Start to find some length through the spine as you rest the head on the ground. Find, some nice length through the neck. Hands, just kind of feel into what feels right for you. Maybe bringing the hands to the belly. Maybe opening up the palms to the sky alongside the body. Maybe one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. You may even just want to give yourself a big hug, wrapping arms around, grabbing opposite elbows, biceps, or shoulders. So whatever position for the hands feels awesome for you here. And as we're in this active pose or active rest, you can close the eyes if that feels safe, or you can simply soften the gaze. The closing of the eyes, or just, that softening to kind of blur the edges, just kind of helps us to get outside of our external environment and to start to draw the awareness inward. Now, with any home practice, there's going to be distractions. I live in a busy area of town, so you'll probably hear traffic noises outside. You might hear my neighbors play music. You may have other distractions in your place as well. So try not to let those pull away your awareness, but they can be a part of your experience. So maybe a little bit of orientation of the external world, but then really start to bring that focus in. Take a moment to really root down towards the feet. Maybe even activating through the shins, pressing the shins forward a little bit so that you can really root down through the heel, through the ball of the foot. Maybe even lift up through the toes, spread them out and set them back down. Really feel this grounding connection of the feet into the earth. May even activate a little bit through the legs. And with the eyes closed or gaze softened, just start to notice your breath. Maybe this is the first time all day you're noticing your breath, the first time all week, maybe your first time ever really, intentionally paying attention to the breath. And just notice the breath at first. You don't have to change anything about it. move through our practice, I'll continue to encourage you to explore, to tune in, to feel. I know that all of this is done hopefully without any expectation. Nothing is supposed to happen and nothing is not supposed to happen, so just let it be. Allowing yourself to gather information, but without judgment, without expectation. And it's our mind's natural state to want to start to classify things, to identify things. And that can be useful, but don't get so caught up on that. You know, you can be like, oh, that's a feeling, that's a sensation, that's an emotion. But don't let it take you down a rabbit hole. Just simply observe it and let it be. And I know that's easier said than done. So that's why we practice. So as you continue to observe your breath, just see what you notice. Notice if your breath only travels down to your throat. Maybe it stops at the heart and the chest. Maybe your breath makes it all the way down towards the belly, down towards the bottom of the lungs. And maybe in this observation, you've noticed that just bringing awareness to the breath, you start to naturally deepen the breath. Maybe starting to take deeper belly breaths, which is our natural state of breathing. If you ever watch a baby or a newborn breathe, they've got that full Buddha belly breathing going. Just as we get older and things start to weigh on us, society starts to imprint upon us, we start to let things get to us, that we start to shorten that breath, even at times holding the breath. So notice if there's anywhere where the breath feels stagnant or forced, and just bring awareness to it. You might start feeling a release of energy, release of tension. Or maybe if it's harder for you to slow down, then you might be feeling even more amped up, trying to slow yourself down. But be kind with yourself. No wrong way to do this. The fact that you're here and you're trying is enough. You can continue to just observe the breath, or you could bring in a little more intention with the breath to lengthen through the inhale, extend out through the exhale. You could work with an ujjayi breath, which is those deep belly breaths in and out of the nose, and then bringing in the activation of the muscles in the back of the throat. So kind of the sound that you make when you're trying to fog up a window. It's that same activation. And then as you breathe in and out of the nose, not only does it create a physical sensation for us to tune into, it creates that audible quality to help the mind to tune into. And it's also been shown to kick in our parasympathetic nervous system, so bringing in a little rest and ease into the body. Awesome work. If you'd like, you can stay here if this active rest is feeling good, continuing to press into the feet, shins shifting forward, or you could raise the feet up towards the sky. The knees could stay bent as much as you'd like, or you could straighten them out. And notice what feels good here. You may have noticed that I lifted my hips to tuck my tailbone down. That just helps to release through the low back, so it kind of spreads out the low back, the lumbar spine. And if the legs are extended, if it feels good, maybe just start to bring some awareness to the feet. You're spreading out through the toes. You can point and flex through the feet, roll out through the ankles. If maybe some larger movements would feel good here, you could raise and lower the legs. You could open them up like scissors. You could open them up to either side. And if you've been practicing with me for a while, you may know that one of my favorite ways to release is to shake it out. So you could even shake through the legs. Continuing to connect to the breath. Fantastic work. When you're ready from here, we're going to bring the hands to the outsides of the thighs. So if the legs were down, go ahead and raise them up. And then we're going to open up the legs to either side. And we're using the hands here as some support. Now my wall is in the way, so I'm going to turn this way just so you get another angle. So it doesn't matter how wide the legs are opening. And if you're against the wall, if it would feel better to bring the legs up against the wall for some support, feel free. So the hands can stay on the outsides of the legs to support if, gravity is doing a little too good of job and it feels a little too extreme to open up. You could also bring the hands to the inner thighs, giving gravity a little assist if maybe finding a little more intensity in that opening would feel good here. Flex through the toes so that the toes are drawing up towards the knees. It's called dorsiflexion. Maybe even spreading out through the toes, keeping the feet nice and active. And there might naturally be some shaking in the body. That's okay, that's natural. Continuing to find your breath. Continue to just gather information. Notice what comes up without expectation, without judgment. And when expectation or judgment arises, notice it and see if you can let it go, which again is easier said than done. Legs are still active. Check back in with the feet. Notice if you have released that dorsiflexion or if you need to, again, draw the toes back as we lengthen out through the heels. Just about 3 more rounds of breath here. Awesome work. And when you're ready, we're going to draw the legs together. We're going to release just the left foot down towards the ground, planting that foot on the ground. Knee bent. The right leg is still extended. We're going to, once again, flex those toes back, get that dorsiflexion. And we're going to turn the right toes out towards the right. So we get this external rotation of the entire leg. Even the top of the femur is rotating in that hip socket. So the knee, the toes, they're all directed out towards the right. And then we're going to bend the right knee, crossing the right ankle on top of the left knee and letting that right knee open up. So we're taking a reclined figure 4 or a reclined pigeon pose. So then I'll turn this way for another angle so that foot is extended, rotate it out, cross over, open up. So you can stay here. If this is enough sensation for you, we're getting an opening in the hip, a stretch on the outer right hip and glute. We're keeping the right toes flexed back, so maintain that dorsiflexion. You can keep that left foot on the ground if that's serving you right now. If you maybe want to explore deeper sensation, you can start to draw the left knee in towards the chest. You could place a block or a pillow or something underneath that left foot for a little more passive pose. Or you could raise the left foot, and if you do, flex the left toes back, so bring that dorsiflexion in for both feet. hands could interlace through the legs and come behind that left knee. That drawing back is going to create some more sensation here. And then just feel into this. Maybe some gentle rocking side to side. You could bring the right elbow to the right knee to gently press it open. You can also continue to draw the left knee towards the left shoulder. So check in with the body. Notice the sensations. And while we want to find positions that, feel good, we still want them to be challenging. We don't necessarily want to just rest in our comfort zone. Because obviously the comfort zone is comfortable. It's nice and cozy there. No change can really happen there. So we want to, find that comfort zone and then start to gently and mindfully push ourselves out of that comfort zone and kind of play with the edge. Kind of see what can the body do. See what kind of sensations can come up. But stay mindful because we don't want any pinching, burning, tearing sensations, anything that feels like it's going to cause pain or injury. So we are intentionally stepping out of our comfort zone, but we're not intentionally stepping into suffering. We're not intentionally stepping into pain. And this is where, you can kind of play with that edge of tuning into the body, of taking it from, this is a, intense sensation. This is a nice deep stretch, that kind of where it hurts good. It's a good kind of hurt. Where you can easily go into the realm of, this is bad. This is too deep. Just tune in, adjust as necessary, adjust as needed, knowing that your pose will look different than mine, will look different than what you think it's going to be. Don't worry about what it looks like. Just tune into how it feels. Now, 3 more rounds of breath here. Listening to those messages from the body. If they're telling you you've got a little more space to work with, you can kind of push that edge a little bit more. Or if you've pushed it too far and you need to back out and readjust. And the more we continue to tune into the body and respond accordingly to the messages, the stronger that connection to the body becomes, and the better we're able to, hear those messages and respond appropriately, building a respectful relationship with our introspection. Beautiful work. When you feel ready, if that left foot was raised, go and start to lower it down towards the ground. Now, keeping the legs where they are, we want to first shift the hips over towards the right. So really press down into the left foot, press the shin forward like we had in our active rest. Press down into the shoulders and into the back of the head. Press down so much that you can easily lift the hips. There might be a little core engagement. Shift the hips just slightly, just a few inches over towards the right. And then when you're ready, we're going to start to drop the knees over towards the left. So that shifting is just so that as we come into the twist, the spine is still in line. Now, don't expect that your legs and foot will come all the way to the ground. That's a pretty intense twist, and that's a lot of sensation going on. So feel free to bring in props. Fill in that space with a block, with some pillows, with a blanket. So, twist over until you find that edge, but don't feel like you have to force it to the ground. We're working to keep that right shoulder on the ground so that we've got this nice opening through the chest. And we're bringing that twisting in, so it might be a little more challenging to breathe into the belly, but that can also be one of the ways that the body sends you a message.
continue to breathe deep. And if you find that you can't take deep breaths, if it feels forced or stagnant or almost like you have to hold the breath, then you've gone too far into your twist. And then you need to back out a little bit. So we're in this twisted pigeon. And of course, if it doesn't feel good to have the legs in this kind of figure 4 position for your twist, don't do it. You can uncross through the legs and just drop the knees over towards the left, finding, letting them land on a prop. But if you would like, the only real difference is with the ankle crossed. It's just going to bring in a deeper stretch, a little more sensation into that outer hip that we were just stretching in our figure 4. So always tune into your body. And know that all of the options that I give, there's no hierarchy. They're not ranked good, better, best. I'm not needing you to force yourself into, any sort of pose. It's all just options for you to explore so you can bring in your own autonomy into your practice. You can bring in your own self-regulation so that you can step into any yoga class, not just mine, and know that for any one given pose, you have multiple options that you can explore that feel best for your body. Regardless if the teacher only gives 1 or 2 options, you have that library of options built up, which of course takes time, and it takes building that relationship with your body to know what works and what doesn't. And it takes mindfulness to continue to check in, knowing that the body is in constant flux. So some days I feel more flexible than others. Some days I feel stronger than others. So my practice is going to vary every single day. Every single time I step on the mat, the practice is going to be different. So we don't want to bring in any expectation or any judgment. A few more rounds of breath in our twist. Awesome work. As you feel ready, we'll slowly start to draw the knees back up towards center. Uncrossing through the legs, planting the feet on the ground, maybe lifting the hips and shifting the spine back over. And take any movements here between sides that would feel good. Maybe it's stretching the legs back up towards the sky and shaking them out. Maybe it's planting the feet a little wider than hip distance and just windshield wipering the knees side to side. Any other movements, you can revisit anything that we've done. You can, get into something different. It's really about tuning into the body and figuring out what it's asking for. So again, no right or wrong way to do this. As long as you're not causing yourself any pain or injury, then you're doing it just right. So when you're ready, coming back into our active rest, feet planted on the floor, knees bent, we're going to extend the left leg up towards the sky. We're flexing the toes back, so we've got that dorsiflexion nice and active through the leg. And then we're going to externally rotate, so turning the toes and the knee, the whole leg out towards the left. Then we're going to bend the left knee, crossing the left ankle on top of the right knee and allowing that left knee to open up. So creating our figure 4 on the other side. Really rooting down through that right foot. Opening up, you could bring the left hand to the left thigh to gently press it open. And your choice, if this is your pose, if you want to stay here, awesome. Gonna get all the benefits here. If you are wanting to explore a little more sensation, or your body is telling you there's more, you haven't quite hit outside of your comfort zone yet and you want to take it a little further, you can start to raise the right foot, drawing the right knee in towards the chest. And you can use props underneath that right foot for a more passive pose. Or you could raise the right foot, bringing in that dorsiflexion, that active foot flexing back. And bring the hands through your figure four, interlacing behind the right knee. The shoulders stay relaxed down. The head stays connected to the earth. So we're not raising up to make that bind. If that bind isn't there for you as you're lying down, don't force it. You're not doing it right or wrong if you can get that bind. Relaxing in the shoulders and in the neck. And then you have those other options to explore different sensations if you'd like, if that would feel good for you here. Little side to side rocking. You could bring the left elbow to that left knee to gently press it open. You could also draw the right knee towards the right shoulder, and that's going to just bring in more intensity on the outer left hip into the glute. My hip flexors are a little sore, so I'm feeling a little in my left hip flexor. Notice if you're tensing up in the face, in the jaw, in the tongue, in the neck or shoulders. Notice if the feet have gone lax, or if you need to reestablish the active feet, flexing back through the left toes, and if the right toes are raised, flexing back through the right. Closing the eyes or softening the gaze and tuning in. Noticing the sensation. Notice where the energy goes. Notice where your attention goes. Knowing that the mind will wander. You'll start to plan what you're having for dinner. You'll start to run through your to-do list. You may travel down the rabbit hole of some random thought that popped up. And that's okay. It's part of being human. We have like 60 or 70,000 thoughts a day, so it's natural that we're going to get caught up in some of them. And this is just a time to practice. It's an opportunity to notice when you've gone down that rabbit hole, to notice when your attention is being drawn away from your present moment. And then you have an opportunity to bring yourself back, to find an anchor. You know, whether it's the sensation in the body, connecting to the breath. You're able to practice coming back to your present moment. And the more we practice that on our mat, the more we can take it off our mat. A few more rounds of breath here. Awesome work. When you feel ready, if the hands are interlaced behind the knee, release those. If the right foot was raised, lower it down. Now we're going to keep the cross in this knee, if that feels okay for you, as we take it into a twist. Now before we twist, we want to realign through the spine. For that, we want to find some connection and engagement. So press down into that right foot, press the shin forward. Press down into the shoulder blades, down into the head. Find a slight engagement in the core, and through that pressing down, lift up through the hips. Shift them slightly towards the left, over towards the left, just a few inches. And then we'll start to drop our figure four crossed legs over towards the right. Now again, don't expect for the right knee and the left foot to touch the ground. It's a pretty extreme twist if they do, and just kind of feel into it. It may feel great, may not. So you can use props to fill in that space. So you can see I've got my block to rest my foot on. You could slide blankets or pillows or anything underneath there. And that shifting of the hips hopefully brought the spine back into alignment as we came over into the twist. So notice if the spine is in a straight line, and if not, bring the knees back, shift the hips over just a little bit further to the left, and then drop the knees. And of course, if that figure 4 crossover is not working for your body, if it's a little too intense on the left glute, left hip, or maybe even into the low back, or even in the spine, uncross through the legs, maybe stack the knees, find a variation, a version of a twist that feels better for you. And as we work both sides, we work both sides to bring balance, but we don't want to treat both sides the exact same, because chances are we've got asymmetries in the body, we've got imbalances. Some of those are things, it's just the way we're built, the way we were born. It could be from different injuries, could be, different holding patterns, could be from physical activity that we've done. Maybe we've worked one side versus the other more, through a sport that is, like the first example that's coming to mind because I've been hanging out with my parents is pickleball. It's very dominant side. And so my mom always feels like one side is stronger than the other, one side is tighter than the other. So there's lots of different reasons why there's asymmetries and imbalances in the body. So we don't want to just force the same shape on each side. But we really want to pay attention and get to know those differences, those imbalances, and we can get down to the root reason. Is it just biomechanics? Is it just skeletal proportion? Is it, the way I'm built and something that I just need to learn to accept? Or is it something that I can learn to work with and try to bring more balance into it? So just another way, another tool to use our interoception, that system of the body communicating to us about our emotions and the physical sensations in the body, and using those cues to get to know the body better. So of course, with any relationship, the more you communicate, the more you are open and vulnerable and willing to put in the hard work to build that relationship, the stronger that relationship is going to be. And in all honesty, there's no more beneficial relationship that you could ever build than the one with your own body. It's all you got in this life. And our body reacts to what we do, what we put into it, what we do with it, or what we don't do with it, what we don't put into it, that it's needing, that it's asking for. So not many of us are taught to prioritize the relationship with our body and with our mind. But it truly is one of the most important relationship that you can have. Awesome work. When you are ready, we're going to slowly start to come out of the twist. Coming back onto the back. Uncrossing through the legs if they were crossed. And again, taking any movements, any stretches that would feel good here. Some windshield wipers. Some shaking out some funky legs. Anything that would feel great here. And then we're going to get off the back when you're ready. Just rolling onto one side of the body. Gently pressing your way up. And then go ahead and grab a blanket, maybe a smaller one, fold it up. We want to bring in maybe like 1 to 3 or 4 inches of cushion, just kind of depending on what feels good here. A little bit of padding to sit on. And the more tightness you experience in your hamstrings and in the low back, the higher lift you're going to want to have. So we're going to sit on our little cushion here.
We're going to extend the legs forward. We're going to have a bend in the knees, not full on bend, like we did in our active rest. We're starting to extend the legs out, but have a generous bend here so that as we're going to come into a forward fold, and as we start to bow forward, we can bring the chest to the thighs and actually rest the chest on the thighs. Dropping the head down between the knees, starting in this nice, very gentle forward fold. If it would feel good here, you could maybe bring the arms underneath. You could grab opposite hands, wrists, elbows. Give yourself a nice little hug. And we're going to slowly, if you'd like, you could stay here. Or we're going to slowly start to take this into a little bit of a deeper forward fold. But if you'd like, you could bring in maybe your bolster or cushion or a big rolled up blanket for underneath the knees. You could leave the arms underneath if that little hug would feel good here. And you can start to find a little more lengthening through the legs. We're not bringing the legs all the way straight, and we're not trying to fold completely in half. That's just too extreme. There's really no necessity to be able to fold completely in half. There's no need for that functionality. So we don't need to force anything here. But what we want to do is kind of find our edge with this forward fold. So you might feel a little extra sensation through the backs of the legs, through the low back. Stay in tune with that, because we want to work with that sensation to be able to find that edge and kind of push it, but not so far that we're going to cause any pain or injury. So you could bring in blocks or a stack of pillows to rest the head on, especially if you are straightening the legs to a point where you can't really rest the chest on the thighs. And that's all going to depend on your body shape, on your flexibility. And don't feel like, like I said, you don't have to fold in half to feel like you're getting the benefits of this pose. We're really just looking to get a release down through the sits bones, a nice stretch through the low back, some lengthening through the spine. We're allowing the shoulders to drop back and down, so we're getting an opening in the shoulder blades and a release in the neck. And then as we lower the head down, either towards the knees, towards a block, towards a pillow, we get that release in the neck and in the shoulders. So once again, pay attention to the messages from your body. If there, again, is any pain, any pinching, burning, tearing sensations, anything that's like, oh, that doesn't feel good, or that's, I'm going to pay for that one later. The adage, or the verbiage, no pain, no gain, that doesn't apply to yoga. As we explore the stretching of the poses, which is just one small aspect of the physical practice, is the stretching and the flexibility. We do get that it hurts so good kind of sensation, especially when we have tightness or soreness from other physical activities. That stretch can definitely be like, ooh, yeah, I can feel that, but it shouldn't be so much that it takes your breath away, or that you're not able to breathe deep into it. So let the breath be the guide. The breath actually tells us a lot about what's going on in our present moment. And if you start to notice the breath throughout your day, notice what your breath does when you start to get stressed. Notice what your breath does when you get excited, when you get anxious. The more we notice the breath, the more we can see the little messages in it. And the breath is one of the most present things that we have. Without the breath, there is no present moment. We wouldn't be here without it. Just a few more rounds of breath in this forward fold.
Stay connected to your hamstrings, to the hips, to the low back, to the neck and shoulders. Keep checking in, how they feeling, how they're doing. Beautiful work. When you're ready, nice and slow, start to walk the hands back as we press ourselves up and out of our forward fold. Now for the last bit of class, I'm going to guide us through a meditation where we can really tune in to our introspection and to the different, kind of guides within ourselves. So you can take whatever position you'd like for this meditation. If you want to sit up, in a seated meditation, if you want to sit in a chair, you're welcome to. The way that I'm going to set it up, which I would love for you to explore to see if it works for you, is in a supported heart opener. So I'm going to leave this little cushion under my booty and bring my bolster lengthwise, so it's about the length of the spine to the back of the mat. Now again, if you don't have a bolster, you can use a big or a couple different blankets rolled up. There goes my water bottle. Or a yoga mat you could use. My foam roller is long enough. You could use that. I'm also going to bring in a blanket for my head, so I've got a little cushion here. So the idea here is as I'm laying back, it's going to bring in a lift in the back of the heart so I can drop the shoulders back and down, getting this beautiful heart and chest opener. That cushion underneath the booty, that's to kind of accommodate for this curve in the spine as I have the cushion there. You could completely neutralize that by sliding a block underneath. You can bring pillows or anything in there, so if it would feel better to have the spine more neutral. And then you can keep the feet planted on the ground, kind of like that active rest. You could extend the legs out along the ground, knowing that unless you've neutralized through the spine, that's going to be a little more intense in the back bend area. Or you could take it into a hip opener, bringing the bottoms of the feet to touch, knees dropping open, and then you can use blankets or blocks or something to fill in the space underneath the knees. If you are taking this meditation from a seat, then really ground down towards the sits bones. If you are in a cross-legged position on the ground, really feel into the outsides of the feet, the ankles that are touching the earth. If you're sitting in a chair, really press the bottoms of the feet in. Close your eyes. And just think about something in your life that you would like a little direction or a little information, a little bit of guidance. And what we're going to do is check in with the wisdom of the body. So we know within the nervous system, the kingpin is the brain. It's where we've got most of our neural receptors. That's where a lot of the action goes down. We've also got a lot of neural receptors in the belly, sometimes known as our second brain. That's why they say trust your gut. And what was not known to me until this weekend is that we also have bundles of those neuroreceptors in our hearts. So we've got the wisdom of the brain, the wisdom of the belly, and the wisdom of the heart. So we're just going to simply check in with those things as we move through our meditation. So again, think of something that you'd like some insight. Maybe you're dealing with a challenging relationship or a change in a relationship. Maybe it's, in relationship to yourself. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe there's a big decision that you need guidance on, or just a little assurance you're making the right decision. So we're going to connect viscerally, first by bringing the hands to the head. So this can look very different, however you'd like. You could bring one hand to the front of the head, one hand to the top or back of the head. You could bring both hands to the sides of the head. My favorite way to connect to this is to bring my hands into prayer and bring the thumbs to my third eye. So right at on the forehead, right at the brow line. So however you choose to bring the hands to the head, just commit. There's no wrong way to do it. And feel into the energy of the mind. And start to ask the mind, the wisdom of the mind. Whatever it is that you are working with right now. Whether it's advice on a relationship, on a big decision, if it's insight. Whatever it is, bring that question, that inquiry, into the wisdom of the brain. Allowing yourself to be open to receive, but knowing that answers don't always come as immediately as we would like. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll come in, flashes of words, sometimes in full sentences. Sometimes it'll be a feeling, a sensation, a thought. And again, nothing is supposed to happen and nothing is not supposed to happen. But letting the mind know that you are here, you are listening, and you are ready to receive the message when it is ready to send it. About another 30 seconds here. Opening, receiving, and listening. As you feel ready, we'll start to bring the hands down to the belly. And you could bring the hands to either side. You could interlace the hands on the belly. You could stack them, however you'd like to viscerally connect to the belly. Starting to take your awareness down into the wisdom of your second brain. And start to ask your question, your inquiry. Asking for your belly wisdom. And pay attention, even if things don't really make sense. If something comes up that makes you go, Don't try to judge it. Don't try to make sense of it. Just receive it. And if nothing is coming up for you, don't worry. You're still communicating to your belly wisdom, to your gut instincts, that you are listening. About 30 more seconds here. And as you start to feel ready, bringing the hands up to the heart. And however you'd like to connect to your heart space through the placement of the hands. Feeling into this space, into the wisdom of your heart. And asking your inquiry, your question. Presenting your dilemma or issue and being open to receive the heart's wisdom. Knowing the messages may be clear or subtle, maybe abstract, subjective. They may be clearly defined. Each area might have different ways of communicating to you. Feel into it. About 30 more seconds here.
And as you feel ready to wrap up our meditation practice, give thanks to the wisdom of your mind, the wisdom of your belly, and the wisdom of your heart. Let them know that you will remain open to receive their guidance, to continue to receive any information. And as you feel ready, we'll start to transition into our final pose, our Shavasana, or final relaxation. You're welcome to stay in the position that you're in, if that is serving you now. You're welcome to take any other final movements if that's what the body is asking for. And you're welcome to settle into any other position you'd like to for your final relaxation, with the intention of this last pose is to surrender. Surrendering to the work that we've just done in our practice. Surrendering to any control over the breath. Surrendering the movements of the body to stillness. Surrendering the mind to the peace of the present. And we'll only be here for about a minute. And know as you surrender and as you move through the rest of your evening or the rest of your week, you may still receive information, insights from the wisdom of your body. This kind of deep work, we don't always get instant gratification. We don't always get an immediate response. But starting to open those doors of communication to the wisdom of the body. You might be surprised what and how and when things come up for you, when things are revealed to you. By taking this final moment to just let it all go. Allow yourself to remain in your internal environment. In this moment of peace, this moment of rest, this moment to just be. Please stay here for as long as you would like, for as long as you can give yourself the gift of this time. If If you are ready to close out your practice with me, just gently, slowly bring some movement back into the body. And make your way back up to a comfortable seat. With the eyes remaining closed or gaze softened, wherever you find yourself, offer yourself a little bit of gratitude for taking the time to step on your mat, to do the work. It can be scary to go inward and explore our inner workings. But there's so much benefit to building a healthy relationship with our mind, with our body, with ourself. If you'd like, I'll invite you to bring the hands to heart center. Thank you for allowing me into your homes to share the gift, the magic of yoga. Thank you so much. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening. I see you, I honor you, and I bow to you. Namaste. Again, thank you so much for those of you who